Hello, everyone. I thought, given the developments over the past few days, it would be remiss of me to not at least say a few words on where we are in relation to taxation, given the changes, reversals that have taken place, what those changes and reversals might mean in relation to the key parts of financial planning strategy, and where we might even be going in relation to taxation when we get the second part of the medium-term fiscal plan promised on the 31st of October. Now, before the new Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, made those momentous statements, what we knew was that we were not going ahead with the abolition of the 45% tax rate. And before the Monday statements, we also knew that we were not going to have a removal of that 25% corporation tax rate, and along with it, the 26.5% effective rate that would apply to profits between 50,000 and 250,000, that kind of marginal rate in between. But what was announced on the Monday, the bringing forward of a chunk of the medium-term fiscal plan to calm markets further, what we did get to hear was that the 19% basic rate of tax, and this was fairly well-trailed outside of Scotland, not well-trailed outside of Scotland, but the 19% rate of tax outside Scotland, from 2023-24 has gone. It won't be with us. We're not going to have it, despite Rishi's promise. It will remain at 20% indefinitely. What we also heard is that the scrapping of the off-payroll working rules in the public and private sector will not now go ahead and will remain with the rules as they stand now. That was not about categorizing whether you are an employee, effectively, of the person that you're providing the services to and should be taxed accordingly, or effectively self-employed, or a member of an intermediary company. Those categorization rules, the criteria for determining your status, would have remained the same. It was really, the proposal was to shift the responsibility back to, for determining status, back to the individual providing the services rather than the consumer of the services. So we are where we were before that proposal. The responsibility remains with the consumer of those services. The 1.25% point reduction in dividend tax rates is not going ahead. So we remain with dividend tax rates that are, of course, zero up to the £2,000 annual dividend allowance, 8.75% for basic rate taxpayers, 33.75% for higher rate taxpayers, and 39.35% for additional rate taxpayers. What else did we have? VAT-free shopping not being reintroduced. We had the electricity and gas, the energy price guarantee remaining, but only for 6 months, and then there'll be a further review. That has, of course, caused quite a big stir, quite a big debate. And that will continue until we know what the rules are going to be, which we won't know until next year, I guess, because it will be determined by the situation that we are in at that point. We know that the reduction in the NIC, the National Insurance Contributions, is going ahead, and that's probably because it's too late to do anything else, because it's reached its third reading in the House of Commons. The SDLT changes, the expansion of that nil rate ban for first-time buyers and non-first-time buyers, is going ahead, will continue. Okay, the Chancellor has promised, quote, more difficult decisions on both tax and spending, which we'll become aware of on the 31st of October. It's expected, famous last words, that those changes will be more about how we can save, how the government can save money through more efficient use of departmental expenditure, and also, of course, looking at benefits, benefit rises, benefit cuts, just basically looking at how we can save money and spending plans as opposed to more taxation. But you can never rule anything out these days, of course. So where are we in relation to, what does all that mean? That's where we are. What does it mean in relation to financial planning? Just a few highlights, I think. First of all, that 25% corporation tax rate coming in with the 26.5% for profits between 50 and 250,000. The 25% applies to businesses earning more than 250,000, of course, incorporated businesses. That gives us one bit of tax arbitrage to think of if you're looking at getting relief, all other things being equal, then getting relief at a time when your tax liability would be at 25% or 26.5% will deliver more tax relief value, as it were, than getting it when your relief is at 19%. So that's something pretty obvious. That corporation tax rate It's a combination, the corporation tax rate increase for appropriate businesses. The national insurance reduction of 1.25%, the retention of the 1.25% dividend rate all play in to the decision as to how you take money out of the business once all of those rates are in force. How you take it out by way of salary or bonus or by way of dividend. And our calculations show that for a 25% or 26.5% tax-paying company, if you are a higher rate taxpayer or an additional rate taxpayer, so we're looking at next year, the next financial year from 1st of April, if you're an additional rate taxpayer or a higher rate taxpayer, getting your money from a 26.5 or 25% tax-paying company, then you will be better served on the numbers by taking your money out by way of salary or bonus than by way of dividend. And that's pretty much a first for many, many years. What else do we need to take into account on those choices between bonds and collectives? Of course, the no-brainers make sense first. Pension arrangements, ISAs, of course, collective investments or direct investments through which you can use your dividend allowance of £2,000 in your CGT exemption, all make absolute sense. Beyond that, the bond collective decision is an interesting one. And what's changed in relation to that, or what will change? Remember, the corporation tax rate does not apply to non-dividend income of UK life policyholder funds. It's anchored to the basic rate. So whilst that rate won't go down to 19%, it also won't go up to 25%. There's also the fact that with that basic rate not coming down to 19%, the effective rate paid on gains under offshore bonds will remain at 20% as a minimum, assuming that you can't use your personal savings allowance and your personal allowance and your 0% starting band on savings income. It will remain at 20% or 40% or 45%. And for onshore bonds, then it would have been, the rate would have been for high rate taxpayers 21% and for additional rate taxpayers 26% if we had that drop to 19% of the basic rate, but we're not. So it will remain at 20% and 25%. What else, he said, looking at his paper? Well, the VCT and the EIS, of course, remain very much with us, which is great news as very tax efficient vehicles. And we have that increase that was promised to the SEIS investment limits remaining with us, as does the idea of investment zones, but we've had no further progress on that. And that will be subject to conditions and appeal, I expect. So we'll have to wait and see on that. There may be a little more on that on the 31st. What else do we have? We have capital tax stability. There was nothing said on capital taxation. We still have the 31st to come, but we're not expecting anything on capital taxation. That is CGT and inheritance tax. So those two taxes remain as they were. All of the planning that we know and love in relation to those two taxes, including business relief qualifying investments, still work, still remain entirely valid. If they have been valid up till now, they remain valid going forward. So in the round, what we have to say is that tax, undoubtedly, as we are told, is going to remain high for the foreseeable future. When the pain remains intense, taxation pain that is, and remember, those frozen thresholds and allowance will remain with us. We haven't had a thought. They're remaining with us until 2026. And with inflation and frozen thresholds, we are seeing a lot more higher rate taxpayers, a lot more additional rate taxpayers, a lot more taxpayers. And what that means is there will be more people more interested in saving tax. I think the opportunity, forgive any kind of patronizing tone, is for advisors to take that step forward and to walk towards their clients with the offer of reassurance. Of course, one of the key attributes of great advice is, the behavioral coaching that you can give to stand between the client and stupid, as some people have put it, and to offer that informed advice, especially in relation to taxation, offering them maybe a tax health check to say, look, you've heard about all this tax change. Let's just have a look to see if, and if so, to what extent we should take any action in relation to your financial plan to improve your tax position. And there you are. That's your takeaway action. Offer your clients a tax health check. And of course, my takeaway for you is to have a look at Techlink, because we, through Techlink, are keeping you up to date with tax change pretty much as it happens.